that whether you want to download.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, everybody, for joining in. We will wait for another minute and we will then get started. We have Bharat to kick us in and then we'll get going.
Yeah, let's give another minute.
Yeah, let's give it another minute.
Is it started snowing in Toronto area?
It's not snowing yet, but it's quite chilly. Today it's like -1.
Ah,
Yeah. It's amazing weather.
yeah, because I know Denver area and Rene, correct me if I'm wrong. Even in Seattle, there was maybe a storm or severe weather
There
last
was
week.
hail, yeah. Vancouver, Seattle, there's been a little bit hail, but no snow as such as yet. But it's cold.
I think looking at time, Bharat, what do you suggest? Should we wait for another minute or should we get started? Thank you, Ankita. Thanks, Siddharth, for joining in. Thank you, Rajashri, Rimisha. We'll wait for a second and we'll get going.
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving week, so
Yeah, actually, that is what I was talking to many people, and they were like, one, this is not a India-friendly time. It's like 5:30 a.m. And second, it's a Thanksgiving week, and everybody is in a holiday mood and not in a learning mood. So, yes.
okay. Let me kick us off, and that gives another minute or two for others to not miss the content from you, Namrata. Right? Let's do that. So thanks everyone for joining today's session. It's amazing that the different parts and different time zones, right? We have this platform to connect through. Before I hand it off to Namrata, just a couple of things from my side on the topic for today. So in 2003, I was living in Detroit area, lived in Michigan for 20 years, and we were visiting Montreal. Um, we had the rented car. They asked, do you want GPS? And because of the cost factor or the thinking of is there enough value, I said no, right? And didn't realize in Montreal, all the signs, of course, is in French. And we went there, and it was frustrating experience without the GPS. And the reason I mentioned that for feedback, right, this topic in Agile, the feedback is our GPS. It emphasizes that navigation guidance that we seek from the GPS. We can course correct, we stay on track, we avoid the dead ends, right? And we ensure that we reach the destination effectively. So that's certainly one aspect, right? In the navigation, there is also aspect of for iterative way of working, for refining as we go, when where we have unknowns to begin with in our ways of working. That's the other way of getting the faster feedback. Help us, right? And then third aspect is making sure that we track of the regular check-ins, just like the checkups that we do, whether it's our vehicles or any of the normal other house activities. Um, we know even in software development, right? If the defect goes in, it's exponential cost. Similarly, if we have the check-ins, regular check-ins and checkups through the feedback mechanism, it avoids those costly or ineffective use of the time and resources in the long run. So that's the topic for today. I'm sure we learned more from Namrata, and with that, handing it to you.
Thank you so much, Bharat. And yes, really excited. I think this topic, when we were planning to what should be an ideal thing, I think feedback has been there in a scaled agile framework from quite a long time. But the significance and the new safe big picture on the simplification version and emphasizing on that how feedback is going to be important, I think that helped me to pick this as a topic. And I thought of, let's uh, discuss, let's learn from each other what is in it. And my experience, I'm quickly sharing my screen so that, okay. I am going into presentation mode. And here is our topic, feedback, and how this is really important in unleashing the power of the transformation. And how does it help us to continuously feed forward and grow? I am recording this session and we will be sharing this presentation with you. And probably after this talk, more open to have a further discussions how this entire feedback system design can help us and can be leveraged in our transformation journeys. Quickly, something about me. This is like really excited. Public speaking has been my enjoyment area, but later on I moved to more of a personalized cohort. 20 years of experience, 15 years actually into agile roles. Uh, and when I started my journey in 2016, then of SPC, then I started interacting with people on the public forums more. So what is in it for us today? What is our core learning objective? And what I would like you to take from this session? First is, what are the 4 pillars of our feedback system? Second, what are the 2 core elements that will help us to design that culture? And third, what are the 8 aspects that I could see from my entire experience that can help you to embrace the continuous growth and learning culture? So what I'm calling it is a 4 to 8 strategy of feedback system design, and that can help us in our journey wherever we are in the feedback. Of course, what's different? We all have been doing it. Probably iterative is not new for us. We continuously go back and gather the feedback. But what I feel as we look at these images, as we look at these visuals, right? Generally, we are able to relate to more visuals, more data, more insights. But also, we are able to more relate to visuals if they are contextual to us. Like if we are showing a image of dove, it is like peace. Red roses, of course, a symbol of love. Time, right? And danger, like there is some poison or something like that. Similarly, when we go and we start designing a feedback system for our own organizations or our own teams, I think it is very important to contextualize and visualize that, why it is important for us to present the data in that manner. So more of, as we will progress, I'll also be talking about the importance of visually relating to those data items and how to present that feedback. That is more important. So the more and the key concept from a safe big picture perspective is, what is the design of our feedback system should be. Of course, we all know that our agile transformations are designed to talk around more products, system, people, process, tools, and framework. But in every organization, when we go in, there is a different culture, there is a different DNA. We can use all of these aspects from a safe framework using as a guiding force. But culturally, there will be a shift needed. And this framework, this system can actually help us to gather what is our current ecosystem on the feedback and how we can redesign if there is already a system, or how we can newly design a feedback system. Okay. And in that feedback system, three aspects. Of course, we always start with why. We will go and check with leadership is like, of course, feedback is important, but what kind of a design structure and feedback will be really valuable to them? And when we are talking here about leadership, it's about both leaderships, the leadership from a technology and a process, and leadership from a business perspective. Second aspect is we generally talk about what in bigger picture. In bigger picture, what means, what are the measuring criteria? And measuring criteria is internally, like as an internal use, how we would like to use that feedback. And externally, what are the inputs that we want from our customers? And third, once we have designed the system, how we are going to use this, how it is going to impact us, and how our current ways of working are going to be redesigned, or if there will be any change. So actually, the feedback system design in a scaling transformation is looked at like a proper system, and not just a very one step that, okay, I need a feedback. Little bit diving deep into that, why feedback has become critical, and when you are scaling transformation, why it is all the more important. And from a scaled agile perspective, right, what we are focusing is that we have been over focusing on a linear process, that there is an end-to-end flow. In the feedback, what mistake we do is we just look at the horizontal process. We are missing that feedback loop and that non-linear view from a DevOps perspective as well. And that is coming from the McChryston, Dr. McChryston. He has mentioned this in his book, From Project to Product, from where most of the context is also used in our scaled agile frameworks. And what he's talking about is that how the value delivery can be very much useful, how we can improve our products and solutions using regular feedback, how we can actually not only improve the product, but also the way we interact. And the way we interact is, we call them generally a process, how we can improve that aspect, how we can actually become more customer focused. We are actually talking about what customer want and need. Another aspect is how we can engage our skilled professionals, our talent more, because now they are more aware. It's like whatever they are building for the customers, how customers are responding to them. And at the end, of course, if we will do all that, this will give us improved quality, better flow, and greater satisfaction from all perspective. So that is why the feedback system design in any organization is a critical factor and has to be relooked from what we used to do traditionally. Feel free to let me know, unmute yourself if you want me to, pause, have any question. Attaching it to what we are actually talking about, a simplified big picture of SAFe. So if we look at the new big picture, which is simplified, at the bottom, we could say that the flow and the feedback has been explicitly added. That if we really want to improve the flow of our work and we want to continuously learn, we should actually have a continuous feedback from the team perspective, from a customer perspective, from a various teams to the agile release train perspective, and also from a portfolio perspective. And the four key pillars that we were talking about was also how continuous improvement focus on customer satisfaction, but also how accelerated, faster feedbacks helps an organization to have a better ROI. Also, how effective system designs can help us to get impactful insights. Like we may be capturing the KPIs, the data, the insights, but are those insights really useful? and helping us to grow, that could be relooked by these feedback system design loops. And also, are we learning quickly? Are we learning enough? Are we emphasizing on taking a pause, right? Slowification, and seeing that how we are gathering that feedback and how we are utilizing that feedback. So, from a new, safe, simplified, big picture perspective, the feedback has been given a lot of importance. Though in our transformation experiences, I have seen we have given an emphasis from a feedback, but majorly it was always about a team level or a product level. But now we are focusing on how at a scaled level, at an organization level as well, we can actually amplify the feedback system design. Okay, so if there is any question, let me know. Otherwise, I'm double clicking on what are the elements on the effective feedback system. So is it like a traditional feedback system where we focus on personal performance, team performance kind of a thing? Or this is actually talking about the feedback on a product? Holistically, what we have seen and what I have experienced, and I think what SAFE is also talking about, is the effective feedback system actually can be designed to cater all of these aspects. Okay. And when we say all of these aspects, we can actually start with a product. Then, of course, it should be enhanced with the process part of it and people part of it, and later on, how our tools and technology. So, holistically, actually, if you put an emphasis on your feedback system design, it could be a step in your growing maturity on how your feedback culture looks like. But when the key elements are designed, I think there are 4 key elements where we will be talking about, okay, I want to gather a feedback. What should be my initial 4 elements? And looking at from a safe perspective and looking at from a system design perspective, we will talk about 4 parts. One is source. So if I am gathering feedback, what is my source type? And who matters the most to me, who is providing me that feedback? So holistically analyzing that and holistically taking an approach to define, identify source. And this is very different from your persona at this point of a time. Okay. So this is about data sources. They may be actually the people or the system or the group of people, but they are the people whose feedback matters you the most, and they will be the real people actually from whom you will be gathering the data. Second is design, right? So it's not about just giving some questions or sending out the surveys. It is also about what kind of a data will be helpful. So this is actually the next level where you just randomly do not throw a surveys on the customers or randomly just do not ask for how good are you feeling or how bad are you feeling about that. You're actually purposefully designing that what is an outcome you want to take out of that. And then third step is where you go and start collecting the feedback. But of course, when you are collecting the feedback, you are doing some guardrails. There are some governing approaches and how you are going to store this data. So as we are talking about, these are not like a random data, or these are not like you are collecting, just for sake of it. You have to have a proper governing approach because some of these data items may be very sensitive. So whatever the governance setup that you will have, whatever the storage approach you will have, you need to actually design it like a system. And of course, when we have a source, a design, a data has been gathered, analysis, right? Everybody talks about the data analysis, very important. Similarly, in the feedback system, identifying that data from their trends, the patterns, what are the root causes people are talking about, if they are highlighting some problem areas, if you can actually do some categorization and then prioritization. So more of the feedback is not just, I'm setting up a 101 with you and I'm just asking you some random question. It is actually a proper system that has to be designed from a entire loop perspective, that why I'm designing this product, what are the processes I'm implementing, and how I want my consumer to share the feedback so that I can continuously improve. So that is our first part of our system design strategy, like, or what are the 4 elements. Okay. Now I'm talking about what are the two pillars, right? Decisions and action. So in our 4-to-8 strategy, the other two aspects are, of course, there is a culture that we are trying to start with feedback loops, continuous improvement. Then how do you talk about the decisions and how do you communicate and how do you engage people that you can discuss about what are the decisions that we are taking from the feedback that we have received and the data we have analyzed? And also the culture of continuously improving, right? What are the actions? What are the activities? What are the insights from this feedback we have captured that we are picking up our improvement backlogs? Okay. Earlier also, we are doing all of these aspects from a team perspective in an agile and a scrum teams. This has been a very critical aspect. Now here we are talking about little bit larger at a scaling level. So like when you have your systems and your solutions and the multiple people are involved, so then how to analyze that data and how to create those actions which are not just a very team or a art specific, but can bring in a lot of value to our organizations as well. But how to present your facts, how to present your data, and how do you talk about improving feedback? Generally in our organizations, right, feedback is termed as a, sometimes there is a very negative annotation about it. So when you actually go back and say, oh, you know what, customer has given us feedback, that may be a kind of a fear, okay, and it could be many thrilling experiences that our people may face. So how do you actually talk about all of these and make these facts friendly to our people? That is the second part. As a agile coaches, as an RTE, as a leaders, right? That we need to make sure that when we are presenting this, how we are making these facts friendly to them. And so now, if you look at this picture, right, looking at our gracious old age lady, right, it means she is in that horizon of the experience or the age where she may have a lot of valuable things to share, right? And the image of a coffee mug or the image of our superheroes, right? So the data actually symbolizes there is a visualization, there is a pattern, and there is a feedback associated with data. But how that data or how that visualization is perceived in our organization, that culture is very, very important. Okay. So that is where when we look at data, when we present data, when we present the messaging around it, it is very important that we are looking at the words and the communication that we are sharing. Okay. Because organization may have different associations with the different data patterns. And that is as a agile leader and as an agile coach, I feel has been an integral learning for me. Is like when you design your feedback system as a tool for continuously improving, what are you trying to use this for? Okay. When I'm talking about that, there are two major elements of culture. Okay. It means the communication and the transparent communication has to happen at all level. Means if you are spreading the love, spread the love to your entire group and pass on the same message as a leader. Okay, that this is what data insights are. Maybe they are coming from your customer, from your process side, whatever it is. As a leader, right, as a portfolio leadership or as an art leadership, this is this responsibility that you cannot decentralize. Second, whenever you have some data, do not just randomly share it in an Excel and say, okay, this is what a feedback is. We should run it like a workshops where we should have some insights with the different groups. What those insights mean to our product people? What those insights means to our process people? What is that means to our value management office? I think all of these integral pillars have to be dealt very differently and get the data insights from those workshops, like how to present a meaningful data. That has been my key aspect, is like every group actually look at data very differently. Third is once you are actually creating your feedback system design, use it like a robust tool to actually scale it up as well, right? These are the learnings from my area A, and this is how we have improved with the feedback and learnings. This is how we can use it in your area. And when we spread that stories within an organization, people try to associate more with it. And the another important part is like we all might have like transformation office. We generally in scaled agile, we call it a lace, right? They should actually look at it like as we are maturing in our agile mindset and our agile lean thinking, how we can actually use our maturing of feedback system design as an integral part. Okay. So that is what we mean by when we say, okay, this is a feedback system design. Continuing to, as I am talking about this sharing, right? We all come from a different perspectives, different context. Our experiences are very different. We may have worked with a certain teams. What comes to your mind when we present an image, right? And there is always a feelings associated with the images. So as I was talking about, if we look at owl, right? You may have a very different feelings, but the people who associate, owl, they say it's a visionary bird, right? And when we look at dove, right, we say very peaceful, right? And when we look at falcon, it is like a leadership, right? So that kind of a important thing is also very, very key aspect is in our feedback system design, when you are presenting your data, you need to put a lot of effort in that what are the feelings and the qualities people will associate with that data sharing. Okay. When I'm talking about your context, I may be saying like, if you are a dance expert, the different dance forms, right? You may feel association with it. If you are coming from food industry, when you are presenting data with the food, right? They may have different association. If we are talking more about the customer-centric organizations or where a lot of, feedback from a front-end calling happens, right? They put a lot of emphasis on a customer service. So more of designing the data not only in a terms of that what are the insights we gathered, also designing the data that how proactively we can go and use these data insights to improve ourselves. Okay, so that is the purpose of the data, the images, and the visualizations that is very, very important. Of course, from a as I was discussing with many of our agile coaches, is we sign an NDA. We cannot share, more of customers specific images. So that is why I was trying to associate it very generically, like when we share data, when we visualize data, when we run workshops, we should be associating that with the visuals so that different cultures, different regions, different people, diversity, they can associate with that as well. Not just a simple plain English language, because that might mean a very different in different culture. All right. So any question? I know I'm running it like one
I
way.
do have a question, Namrata. So, if we can take a minute pause here.
Sure.
So, while we understood about the feedback system and the value of it in product development, so I'm very curious now that product development and the feedback system both are actually designed using AI, right? So, how do we still ensure accuracy? So, the very purpose that we want to achieve that it should be able to deliver value to customer, but AI tools can always go wrong. And if everything is being already done by AI, so how do we still ensure that it's actually valuable and helpful in our overall product development? So,
I think excellent question, Ankita. I think most of all of us, like nowadays, are talking about that whenever we are looking at data and whenever we are looking at a data in abundance and the insights and analysis, right? In the product space specifically, how we can use that data diligently and how we can actually make sure that whatever insights we are receiving, I think that is where I will say is like the human intelligence currently is also as important because your customers association with you as a brand or your customers association with whatever value you are delivering to them, you may be able to um, associated more. So if I am looking at data from a product manager perspective or a person who is handling end to end, I think how that insights I have generated from AI, what value or what um, feedback that data is giving to me, I think that analysis is still more around a human. Of course, as we will mature and as our AI tools are becoming more, I would say, integrated in our ecosystems. I think that is where all of these aspects of how ethical they are, what is an accuracy, how, as I was talking about, how we are storing the data, how we are utilizing the data, all of these aspects will emerge. But currently, if you ask me whether in my current experience till today in our feedback system design, have we integrated AI and have we taken use of AI? I think not as such right now. But are we working towards it? You must say at a speed that maybe after 2 to 3 months, if I'll re-give you this session, I may be integrating AI a lot into that. Okay. Uh, Thanks for asking this. I think now this gives me an opportunity to add an addition to it, that how this feedback system design is evolving with the AI evolution. Hope that helps, Ankita.
Yes, yes, absolutely, Nirmita. And we look forward to more insights on it. Thank you.
Okay. One of the, as we were discussing, like there are 4 pillars, there are 2 aspects of culture. And then what are the 8 aspects of feedback system designed for scaling? And all of this, of course, the base is a scaled agile framework, but I'm sharing a lot from my experience perspective as well, that how we created some of these you know systems to scale. Okay, when we were just doing a development for a product team, or when we were very team centric, it was easy and it was quick. But when we are scaling, what are the multiple dimensions that we were looking at? So that is why I just try to put it in a, at least at a high level, at a 8 pillars, but we can talk more around it. Okay. So the first aspect from a feedback system design flow perspective was, when we are designing this, right? What is the key or the first element that is important? And what we have seen is that the feedback loop gets completed when there is a cadence and synchronization via events. Okay. And now when we are talking about events, of course, how we are setting up the process or the ways of working. I use the word process so that we are able to associate it, but it is more of our ways of working in the operating model. The early feedback and the retrospectives, when the agile teams are aligning their iterations and their key events, that is a first key event that we should look into our feedback system. The second is, and which is slowly, I have seen in most of the enterprises now we are mature, is how we are running the system demos and how we are gathering the customers from the feedback from the customers. So it's not just like we are giving the system demos to the internal stakeholders and trying to, sorry, I could see a echo in the background. Could you mute yourself? Thank you so much. How we can actually, gather quicker customer feedback when we are showcasing them the new workflows and set an opportunity to improve within the PI boundaries as well. Okay, so that is another opportunity, not just from an internal stakeholders, but from a customer insights perspective. That earlier was a big challenge from a enterprise perspective, that how to early engage the customers, how do you actually showcase them the half cooked food, how do you actually make them understand that it is just a MVP and this is not the matured product. I think with the maturity in the product phases and the maturity in the customers, this has given us a leverage, that a lot of early feedback customers are open to give, and thanks to the product development world, of course, there. The third aspect, I think, inspect and adapt. From a scaled agile perspective, or many scaling enterprises perspective, even if they are not using SAFe, they may be using other agile methodologies. Earlier, the QBRs and the quarterly things are where the inspect and adapts are happening. But now when we are putting a feedback system designs in loop, we are actually focusing on how early we can inspect and adapt. And we can say that how our solutions, how our technology, how our tools, actually we can improve them. Of course, uh, based on the maturity of the organization, the cadence and synchronization may differ. Very mature, they may do it like every iteration. Some organizations, they start with quarterly and slowly they move to monthly. I think this is based on the how engaged your customer is with the product on a regular basis. That depends upon how frequently you can gather feedback from them and you can improve your system design flows. The second aspect from a system design flow is if you can do a batch size reduction that comes into the same part. Like if you are at a small team, we used to do a quick early testing. We used to have a mock-ups and we used to invite customers and test and share with them. How we can actually do it at a scaling from a epic workflow perspective, how we can design MVPs and how we can get early feedbacks. Similarly, how we can focus on minimum marketable features rather than designing the full-fledged technical solutions and then designing the full ERP and designing the full cloud products. How we can, as an enterprises, as a scaling groups, can also go and gather those feedback early. And the third is, of course, this needs a lot of technology maturity, is our CI/CD pipelines. How do we continuously do integration, continuous testing, continuous deployment? That is actually will help us to have a quicker feedback. So our batch size reduction helps to drive that culture in the feedback system design as well. The third aspect, I think, very important, and many organizations have started doing it, but the third is our flow acceleration. Rather than focusing on how many features I developed or how many user stories I'm working on, and more majorly focusing on the output part of it, that okay, technology teams have written this much code and they have completed this much. We are actually talking about how much rapid feature delivery within to the customers we have done it, and it is at a scaling level. It is not about we are giving them just a small portion of work, how we are integrating system. So of course, at the scale of an enterprise, the flow acceleration is different, but this is coming again from Dr. McChristian's project to product thinking, is like how your way of thinking into your flow metrics, like how do you stop starting and start finishing, but also continuously distribute. And when you are distributing and when you are putting things into production, suppose you have deployed 16 flow items there, how many defects you got, how much features you have given, and how much debt you have accumulated. So he is talking about the flows distribution from all aspects. I think similarly, those are the flow accelerations we are also talking about, is how our feedback system design is helping us to have a flow acceleration. In all of these 8 aspects, it's not that when you kickstart on this maturity journey, you start focusing on all the 8. Maybe like when we start implementing our safe implementation, there are 10 principles and we do not go with all the 10 altogether. We actually take a maturity journey. Similarly, in our feedback system design flow as well, based on the maturity, I have seen many mature organizations in their scaling journey. So that is why I'm talking a little bit more into the depth. But if you are in your maturity journey where you are just starting with the feedback as a culture, you may start with initially just from a product part perspective. The fourth aspect, and I think that is the most critical, which I have seen in my experience, and I'll dig a little deeper into it, is communication principles, right? In the feedback where we see our leadership sometimes, and in when I'm talking about leadership, it's not a CXO level of leadership. It's about our product, solution, technology, that kind of a leadership at an agile release train level and a solution release train level, is like they may not be able to translate the feedback which they have got into an actionable feedback. Like, what does this mean for me as a feedback to uh, refine my features, refine my epics? And that is where it is very important to not, as an individual, as a one or two people in the solution management, just look at those feedback. It is very important to engage your people, your teams, your arts, and then look at those concrete examples that what your customer has shared in within your feedback. What are your those bottlenecks that they are talking about, and how do you prioritize those insights based on the capacity that you have? The second thing, which is very important, and I think we talk a lot about it, is like you need to ignore the sunk cost. It means, as a developers, right? Even when I used to develop things, we start thinking that the code is our baby, and whatever I'm developing, that is the best. People don't know how to use it, but I know that this is the best product that we are pushing, and these are the best features. And that is sometimes the mistakes the product management and the solution management groups in the business side also does. Similarly, this kind of a challenge we have seen in many organizations. I think it is very important to cater at this point of a time to use feedback to decide whether you should build this feature further. Okay, even if you have spent a little bit cost, it's okay. You need to ignore that cost rather than continuously adding a further feature, enhancing that feature, add more feature, test more features. Ignore the sunk cost. Get that nobody is using this feedback, only one or two customers are using this feature. Better not to focus on that and focus on the features that are actually used by your customers. Uh, Third aspect, and I think we talk a lot about in our coaching space and with the leaders, is like, of course, when you are sharing these feedbacks, right, it is not a blame to your technology team or to your product team. It is about, it's okay, trust them and guide them how they can fail fast and how they can create an experimenting environment. As you grow in a size, as you become a larger enterprises, experimental culture is very difficult to create. But that is, as a coaches, as a RTEs, as a leaders, this is our responsibility to explain that we are staying in a complex bunny world, how we can quickly fail fast, how we can do experiments, how we can do MVPs. That is very, very important. And creating that space for our people where they can celebrate these learning opportunities, where they can celebrate these failures as well, so that they are not reacting to the situations, they are proactively learning from those failures. So this is a very integral and very important pillar from a communication perspective when we are designing our feedback. Of course, the next part, feedback and innovation both goes hand in hand, right? Innovation peptides are not new. It has been there in the safe from quite long time. But how do you actually integrate these innovation peptides with your feedback? Is there are two way, right? One is there is a local context, like one is at a team level, how the innovation and art level, how the people can actually say that what are the new things that they can bring in, and also looking at what is your market behavior, what is your customer things, and then mixing those learning opportunities into a feedback. That is where the real value from a leadership and a product perspective is very, very important. And of course, the organizations thrive when they have created these kind of a continuous learning. More of every within an iteration, if you can have a 1 to 2 hours for what could be different, innovative we can do our customers, which they might not think. Similarly, looking at data insights and what customer is asking for, even if it's not a part of our continuous feature backlog, what extra things we can do, what are the other hypotheses we can pick and we can approve, disapprove. Innovationathons like a hackathons, ideathons, right? What is different completely, like Ankita asked, right? How we can actually use AI. And recently I'm working with some teams where they are looking at how GitHub Copilot can help them how they are effectively using some Adobe Teams, some Chat GPT, how they can use it. I think most of the chatbots are using AI. So more of all of these innovations rather than just always coming from external, thought leaders, how your team can get a time and those innovation sessions where they can bring together these kind of aspects as well from an innovation perspective. Looking at time, I would like to really speed it up a little bit. Next is what is the real feedback and value from a product perspective? So when now you are designing a feedback, how often do you want to have a feedback, right? Of course, with the products, maybe it was just like a feature that where you are continuously getting feedback. But when you talk about a feedback system design, it's about you are talking about a real feedback, going in depth and also understanding the challenges. What kind of a quality of insights that you are looking at? What is the customer satisfaction improvements from that aspect, right? Also, if you look at from a process perspective, how are you encouraging the cross-functional collaborations? How you are helping teams to run more problem-solving workshops, right? So it is not always about those kind of a metrics. It's also about if you want to bring this as a culture, how do you really measure it? And these could be certain very uh, qualitative, right? Not a quantitative, but a very qualitative KPIs. Even if your innovation health at a team level, your team wellness, how your team is sharing feedback, how your team is receiving feedback, all these simplistic things could be very, very useful to measure that value. Um, Seventh aspect, of course, as we say, it's easy to quickly have a POCs or run into a smaller areas, but when you really want to scale it up, right? Do you have a pattern or do you set up a roadmap? Of course, what we have seen is a successful system, feedback system design. There should be a kind of a milestone and a roadmap kind of a thing where you currently assess where you lie. You may have a lot of training needs, techniques, workshop needs. Also, how do you continuously refine this journey? Is like if your teams have understood about design thinking, customer centricity, empathy maps, Gamba walks, right? What next? What are the next thing that they will be, looking for from a techniques perspective? How to run and facilitate these kind of events, right? How your leaders are trained to run these kind of workshops. I think there is a lot of learning. What we have seen is that from a traditional perspective, we are so used to meetings, agenda-less meetings. Sometimes everybody is just listening to one leader. So this is a very different culture. So a lot of emphasis on a org change management, on a training needs is important as well. And last but not the least, customer centricity, right? Customer is our king. So if you are getting a feedback, you can use the currently designing strategies, designing feedbacks, collection tools, prototyping, testing like a thing. Also, you can do a Gamba walks, empathy interviews, pre-analysis, market research, personas kind of a thing. There is a lot more depth into it. So if we are running it for a product and a solution team, I'll share some quickly the workshop design. So then we go little deeper into it. I just kept it at a high level, but the focus here is like based on the context you are in, design it for the customers that are there. Okay. Uh, Sample workshops, that how do you design your workshops? One is when you are doing your system design initial workshops. First is engaging your stakeholders. So when you engage your stakeholders, it could be your portfolio leadership, your EC is engaging, and if you are already into your OKR and improvement journey in that perspective, you actually run all the workshops in this format where you have a feedback culture assessment, you help them with the designing elements, as I told you, you actually help them with the what is a skill development need, and then your leadership gets engaged into taking an action on your learning thing, and then you create your roadmap kind of a thing. So this is how you set up your initial workshops to kickstart with your stakeholders and with your leadership. Second is if you are at a stage where you are initially starting and your teams may have not done it, then you can actually do some activities at a team level as well, as like um, doing it in a format of what, so what, now what, right? These kind of things. You can use Miro for a collaborative workshop. And what do you do there is like you can actually run a DevOps simulation. So suppose you can say, okay, we want to reduce the deployment time. We want to eliminate the bottlenecks. We want to have a continuous integration from a technology perspective. You can say, okay, we do not do a customer journey mapping, how we can engage with all other cross-functional teams and we can actually run end-to-end customer journey. Third is like you can actually go to your team and you can say, currently we are not gathering any feedback. How can we create a feedback system design to collect this for our team? And what are the metrics they would like to collect, or what are the measurement they want to collect? Okay, so this is like you start with the teams, but if you have maturity at a team level and you feel that there is a significant feedbacks that you gather at a product level and a team level, then at a scaling level, so that you can have holistically that culture, you can actually engage your stakeholders and can take that. These are some samples that I'll share it with you. Another aspect is like if you're a part of a LACE and then how do you run it? You actually can run it like a PDCA cycle. So you design your own transformation group and then you say, okay, if I have this iteration, I will run this aspect of a system design perspective. You do some things, you actually implement a feature with the art or with the team, and then you gather a feedback, and then you do system demo, inspect and adapt attempt, and then you adjust your backlog, and then you say how your feedback system design is evolving. This is the initial stage, like if your organization have no culture of feedback. So how you can actually kickstart and can say that, okay, I can do this kind of a first workshop. So all of this was a samples of the workshops based on the maturity of your organization. And then as I was discussing, I was not able to share, the templates because we generally co-created with our clients and we have an NDA. But I do have shared what is available online. So generally, the creating customer feedback system, a lot of tools are available. So I have shared some samples from them. Also, you can actually, if you do not have access to external tools, even with the Microsoft Loop, you can create all of this as a very simple framework, and you can run it as a tool. You can also use an OKR template and you can run it from there. Of course, Miro is there. And then to run these workshops, okay, this is not like a normal workshops. We prefer using liberating structure. There is an example of user experience fishbowl. So like how you can analyze those insights that are coming from customers. So I've shared some sample formats, sample designs, and in future, I would like to create some templates. Like there was a small time, so I was not able to do that. But of course, in the continuation journey, I'll share some sample designs in an Excel or in a PPT format with you for sure. And with this, I would love to conclude and thank you so much. I know there is a less time, but I'll say feedback and feed forward as a concept is very, very valuable, whatever role you are playing. Concept is simple. It needs a lot of practice. It needs a lot of communication. It needs a lot of engagement from leaders. But start wherever you are. Okay. And feel free to reach out to me. I have shared recommendations and references. You can connect with me. This topic is very close to my heart because I have been in this journey from a decade. So happy to share my learnings. I'll take a pause here. Yes, let's go with the questions.
I
Anybody?
don't see any question in the chat window, but others feel free to unmute yourself if you have any question. If not, yeah, I agree. Great insights. Great presentation and excellent topic, Namrata. Thank you for all the efforts that you have put it in.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bharat. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. Really appreciate. I know at the end of the day, it's very difficult to, or even if you are, joining. Yeah. Yes, Mrunmay, please let me know.
This is not a question actually, but I just would like to appreciate you. This was a really great and insightful session, Namrata. There is a lot to learn, and I learned about many new techniques. So I would like to explore them in detail when I get to know about them from you. So thank you very much for this workshop. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mrunmay. And thank you for your time for joining in. Thank you. Yeah, I know. Dhanya, thank you. I know it's a new topic for many because feedback at a team level has been a common thing, but scaling at a scaling level, um, I could see. Thank
Hi,
you.
Namrata. I
Yeah,
loved
please.
your presentation. There's so much like, when you were talking about the scaling level, I was thinking at the team level, am I doing right? And what is that I can do it better?
Sure, then if you feel that there is something that you want to talk about at a team level, we can surely talk about. As I said, you can initially engage with your team members and you can ask like how we can improve on our
Level feedback.
technology integration, right? If they're gathering feedback from the customers, do they really know who their customers are? How customer is taking value from them? We can start from there. And then this is like if you are actually on this journey, you have been able to collect information or the product insights at a team level, at a solution level, then how those insights at an organization level, you as a leader, as a transformation group, are communicating those insights and asking people to continuously improve. I think it's a very difficult culture in the large enterprises where continuous learning is with a growth mindset is a challenging, engaging people with the right conversation. So all of those aspects are very important. Thank you so much for joining in, Dhanya.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'll